My name is Mark Delteet. I work for a defense contracting company, and I recently retired from the Navy after 25 years of service. I went to public school. I graduated from high school, near where I grew up, and then I went to college in Georgia. I went to Georgia Tech, and I got a degree in aerospace engineering, and then I also got minors in German and international affairs. And then after that, I was commissioned into the Navy. The Navy actually paid for my college, so I went through the ROTC program. So they paid for my college for 4 years, and then once I graduated, I joined the Navy, and I had to agree to stay in the Navy for 5 years. So the other schooling that I had as part of that, a few years after I was in the Navy, I went to the Navy's nuclear power school in Charleston, South Carolina, and learned how to run nuclear reactors, which is one of the things I did for a few years out of my career. So I did a lot of cool jobs when I was in the Navy. For a few of my ships, I was actually on aircraft carriers, and I got to run the nuclear reactors. So that was a super interesting thing to do, and very, very technical and very interesting. I spent a couple years teaching people physics in the schoolhouse that actually taught all the Navy officers and enlisted folks how to run nuclear reactors on submarines and aircraft carriers. I spent a couple years. We lived in Charlottesville, Virginia, and I was actually an intelligence analyst for the Defense Intelligence Agency doing a job that was nothing like I was normally supposed to do in the Navy, but occasionally they would send you to do other jobs so you got experience. So I did that. I was an intelligence analyst, which was super neat. And then also I think one of my favorite jobs was I was actually captain of a ship. So I spent a few years, and I was captain of the USS Higgins here in San Diego. And I had a crew of about 300 people, and that was a great experience with so many good people to work with, and a lot of good memories from that. So one of my favorite memories from my first deployment on board the Milius, I was the VBSS officer, Visit Board Search and Seizure. So I was in charge of a team of about 8 people that we would go and do inspections on commercial ships to make sure that they weren't smuggling weapons or oil out of Iraq. Because at the time, Saddam Hussein was still in charge, and the United Nations was trying to prevent him from getting money, and we were kind of helping out with that. So most of the time we would go to ships that were coming in and out of the Gulf, and we would go on board on ladders, and we would climb up the side of the containers, the cargo containers, and then we would actually set up rappelling gear and rappel down the sides, and then open the doors up and go inside, inspect, and make sure that everything was safe and they weren't trying to get anything out. One day, me and my team got the order to hop in our boats, and we were sent 5 or 6 miles out, and we went over the horizon where no one could see the ship, the destroyer that we were from, and we waited until the ship came along. We finally saw it. It was moving slow, and it was so weighted down with oil that actually the seawater was washing over the sides of the ship onto the deck. We waited for them, and then we went up alongside and jumped over what was railings, and those railings were so low that we could just hop right over them from our boat. And the crew members, no one was around, but they were just steaming along. So we ran up to the place where they drive the ship, one of these big merchant ships, and they had actually bolted all the doors shut. So they were welded shut, and so there was no way that we could open up those doors. So me and my team, while we were cruising along, and we were, at the time, we were a few miles from going back into Iranian territorial waters, all the time trying to figure out how to get in. And finally, one of my team members said, "Hey, let's just drop the anchor." So we ran up to the front of the ship, and we figured out how to drop an anchor on the ship to try and get it to stop. So we ran up back onto the top of the ship where they drive the ship, called the pilot house, and ended up breaking some windows and then climbing inside and then taking control of the ship. And then we found all the crew, and they were kind of down, expecting us to come on board and leave, but we didn't. We did not want them to get away, so we basically captured the ship and took it over and found out that they actually had been coming from Iraq and smuggling. So they were violating the United Nations Security Council resolution. So we took control of the ship and then spent a couple days on board and got ready to hand it back over to the State Department. So that was a kind of cool experience. So the hardest part of the Navy was being away from friends and family for a long time. About every 2 years, the ship would go on deployment, so you'd spend anywhere from 6 to 9 months away from your friends and family at home. But even while you're getting ready for deployment, you spend about half the time out at sea practicing and getting ready. So that was definitely hard. So since I got out of the Navy, I took a job and I now work for a defense contracting company. I'm a warfare analyst, and I help engineers figure out what type of things they should build for our soldiers and our sailors and our airmen, what kind of systems they need. So that's what I'm doing right now for work. In my free time, I've started going and spending time backcountry hiking and backpacking. Last year, went up to the high Sierras and went on a 60-mile loop with some friends. I like to brew beer. That's one of my hobbies. And then I also play golf, although I'm not really good at it. So hopefully I'm going to keep practicing that and get a little better.